Good morning and welcome to SimWorld today. We apologize for the hiatus on Wednesday, but we're back here. It's Thursday morning, March 6th, and tipping off tomorrow. So it's only right that we bring him in to discuss it. Is of course the last dance, and of course that means we're bringing in Maestro. Good morning, Maestro. How are we?
Outstanding. Love doing audio only. I don't have to wear pants.
Look, I mean, I don't love doing audio only because you've got the voice made for audio only. I've got neither the voice nor the face for audio or video only. So I'm pretty much putting myself out of work here. But we got plenty to get to here on this Last Dance Eve, if you will. We're talking some of the coaches that might make a viable and a successful leap into SimWorld U. We're talking what's some matchups that we really want to see. But we're going to start with the prospects. And typically at the prep level, there's not a lot of stakes, right? I mean, we're talking
Right.
development. That is the purpose of prep, but that doesn't mean that there's not opportunities. So I'm curious, Maestro, which prospect has the most on the line here as we get rolling with the last dance tomorrow?
Ooh, you know what, Marsh? That is an amazing question. It's so funny because I was thinking of you as I was kind of putting together the thoughts for my talking dirty that's going to come out here later
Oh, you
today.
think about me when you
So
think about talking dirty. I
yeah,
love
yeah. I always say when you want talking dirty, baby. That's why you think I got no pants on. But but I was really thinking about a player like Kai Killens, right?
that.
He's one of the top players in the year. His team has not really performed. Here's an opportunity for them coming in. I think they're ranked number 22 in terms of how the bracket lined out. So, a chance for him and his leadership ability. What is he going to bring to the table? To see how far can they go? And in my opinion, they're in a bracket where they can do, where they can actually make some noise. Another recruit that I was really looking at, only because they've been coming on strong here lately, and that's Trey DeRozan. He's become a scoring machine in spite of how his team has been playing. So even when they're playing good, he's able to put up numbers. When they're not playing good, he still is able to put up numbers and kind of bring them along. Can he maintain that as he moves forward through this tournament? Because a lot's going to be on him, and he's in kind of a difficult bracket. Is starting off against a defensive stalwart team like Africa, but then of course if they win that, they go on to face H Town. There's a lot going on for them there. And lastly, the other recruit that I was really thinking about, only because of what their team has not done this year, and that's LT3. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
It's Harris Tompkins the third. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, only because of what the OGs have not done, and I know some of that is like recency bias. Last year they won the title. During the last regular season, right? And this year I think there's an expectation that they were going to be equally as good, with the coaching that was stepping in and everything else. And they did perform well. I think they're 12th, 11 or 12th right now. But I think our recency bias, I'm going to include myself with this, I won't include you, was thinking that
Thank you.
they were going to be a little bit more for us this season, despite of all the changeover that happened, right? And losing Coach Dodge, losing Cooper Flag, go on and on and on and on and on, Igauskas, etc. But they were still a strong team. So,
Mm.
but usually for me, as he goes, they go. So he's another one that, like you said, there's not really stakes on the line. He's a great player. He's going to do great, but this is definitely, I think, a show me opportunity for him.
I love all those names, and I think it's notable. I'm going off of the ESPN's top 100. You've got Kai Killens coming in at number 9. You've got Trey DeRozan at number 12. And you got LeJorn Tompkins the third at number 16. I Kai Killens personally, when I had messaged you that these were, and look, I should caveat this. I don't jump in here and pretend to be the SimWorld prep expert. That's why on SimWorld today we bring in folks like yourself to talk about that informative piece, right? I mean, I'm doing a lot of my SimWorld U watching, and I defer to the experts when it comes to prep basketball. But Kai Killens to me was the first name that came to mind, so I'm very fascinated that you brought him up. I think that if you look at, I'm a storyline guy.
Mm-hmm,
That's
mm-hmm,
to
mm-hmm.
me, it's just what makes what makes basketball entertaining, which I don't think that's too much of a hot take. But if you look at his potential pathway, right, he's got to, if Gulf Coast were to win, you have to beat Beyond the Arch, and then you have to go against Beasts of the East, and all that
Mm-hmm.
comes with that just to get yourself into, I guess, the semifinals, or I guess that's quarterfinals, because there's four teams or four on each side. So that, to me, that storyline alone of having to make the run and go through a team like Beast of the East, which has been one of the two most consistent programs in SimWorld Prep over the first four seasons of this, that is really exciting. But I want to add one name, and I think in general the most at stake comes for teams that are, or for players that are 17 years old, because they're going on to college next season, and that's when
Right, right.
the spotlight gets a little bit brighter, a little bit hotter before they make it to SWBA, and it's really hot. But one 16-year-old really stands out, and that to me is Monte Parson. You're the number
Mm-hmm.
one recruit in the entire country, according to
Mm-hmm.
ESPN 100. Not only in your age group, we're talking number one overall. You verbally
Yep.
committed to Ohio State. That could obviously change, but the recruiting trail is currently paused. And you are also the best player on the best team in all
Yes.
of prep basketball. Team that went 11-4, tied for the most wins with Best Coast Ballers. That starts to matter, Maestro,
Yes.
when you
Yes.
start thinking about the long term. And again, they don't, them not winning the Last Dance does not mean anything negative, but that's kind of the first check mark, or the first X mark. Monte Parson, number one recruit, wins Last Dance, or Monte Parson, number one recruit, loses in the first round as the top seed. I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
starts to matter a little bit. Not a ton. Again, what you do in college and pros is going to matter more for your legacy. But to me, I think it's that first little taste. That's the appetizer. How good is this meal going to be of the Monte Parson experience? This is our, maybe it's not the appetizer. This is the first drink, right? I just ordered
There
a
you
dark and
go.
stormy. How good is this drink, and how good is the rest of the meal going to be? Am I wrong in that?
No, I think you're absolutely right. And as a matter of fact, you're so right to the point. In my mind, I was kind of liking it to the days of. I'm going to take our viewers back, not that far back. We're not going to go back to the 1800s, so I'm going to bring you back. There's still color TV here, but 1979, Magic Johnson versus Larry Bird, Michigan State versus Indiana.
Illinois, Indiana State. Yep. Sorry,
Yeah,
Illinois
yeah,
versus Illinois.
yeah. No, you good. You good. So people talk about Larry Bird. Everybody knows who he is now. But a lot of people don't realize back then, Larry Bird was so unknown out in the national media. Writers thought he was black. So that's why there is an inordinate lack of national interviews of him in the national tournament, because until they hit the Sweet 16, nobody put their eyes on this guy named Larry Bird. So, and I think of a guy like Magic with all of the pomp and circumstance he had even back then, right? So let's take a look at this. Players who had won on every single level, from city to district to state championship, now going for a national championship. What are they going to do in the pros? When you said it matters for that little extra star that goes by your name, it matters, Martian. I think, and by the way, you said it perfectly. Here is the top player in all of SimWorld Prep. A lot of expectations are on him from everyone else looking at him and what we believe he can do. And here's an opportunity for him to show us what he can do in probably the most intensive moment and tournament of the season. All expectation is there. Is he going to step up into it, or is he going to crumble from it? In my opinion, I think he's going to step up into it, because that's what kind of guy he is. That's what he showed us all year. But you're right. Best player on the best team. And guess what? He is running, and I think I want to say the toughest, the toughest bracket, but he's running an elusive bracket, because they're playing against teams that are play not only the transition game offense to defense, but the transition game defense to offense. They also play the step down game, where they start in transition. By this I mean I'm talking about a team like SimWorld Europe. They'll start the transition, then they reset up in this expanded half court game, or a team like the Indy Stripes that will selectively either hit you with nothing but transition plays no matter what happens, whether you score or not, or they slow it down and do half court. That's a lot of gear shifting for a player like Monty Parsons. To survive that bracket, he will have played every single style of ball that there is in similar prep as they move forward. And like you said, show me something.
Going again. All right, so we got the player or players, what to you is give me the two matchups that you, and it could be something that we already have guaranteed in the first round, but give me two matchups that you really want to see here in the Last Dance.
Ooh, 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 ooh. So if we were to go for like this first weekend, I'm really curious to see Lone Star in Africa. I really want to see how those two offense versus defense style makes fights. I really want to see how they're going to match up against each other. Trader Rosen on one side, Dara Storm on the other side, right? And if I have another matchup, you know what? Forgive me, for I know not what I do. I really am curious about what's going to happen between the Bay Area Breakers and Latin America. And I know that is off the shelf, not exactly in the middle of the highlight, whatever, but those two teams play an aggressively similar style. I want to see if they have anything left to go in the next game, whoever comes out. I have a feeling that's going to be probably one of our higher scoring games of the tournament just because of how they tend to play.
All right, I like those. I like those. I got two different ones though, and mine are
Mm-hmm.
definitely not. We're not seeing them in the first round. There's the first spoiler. So matchup one that I want to see, and this has everything to do with the legacy of these two programs, what they've established over the last 4 seasons, and their head coaches, and that is I want to see Philadelphia Elite, and I want to see them going up against Beast of the East. There's
Ooh.
so much legacy there, right? In these teams that have
Ooh.
been on the cusp or teams that have actually finished the job. I want to see that. And the only way we see that is in the championship game
In championship
for
game,
season
yes.
three. That's the only way. The second matchup that I want to see, and the only way we could see this is if it was the semifinals, but I want to see H Town going up against Gulf Coast Lockdown. I want to
Ooh.
see Kai Killens. I do not pretend to be a SimWorld prep expert. I said that in the first segment. But one guy that I have loved watching since his beginnings was Kai Killens. And I want to
Mm-hmm.
see him going up against future Alabama teammate Almighty Soul. I want to see what that
Ooh.
matchup looks like. Now, does it matter? No. I mean, this isn't the start of a bird magic rivalry. I mean, if we were
Right, right.
going that route, I want to see Monte Parson going up against Kai Killens or up against Bjarne Johnson or Marco Jacobs going up against Jordan Belmont. If we're talking just players at the same position, but I want to see
Mm-hmm,
how
mm-hmm.
do Kai Killens and Almighty Soul play against one another because I think it gives us a hint of how they're going to play with each other when they get to Alabama.
Well done. Well said, my friend. And oh, by the way, in that matchup, you know who else would be stuck in that mix? Azun Azunda Mazaka
Mm-hmm.
with H Town. Oh
There's
my
talent.
goodness.
There's
Oh
talent out there on
my goodness.
both of those squads. So Zuna Mazaka, of course, number 19 in the country. It's not a there's a lot of talent, and of course that you add in Avery Cooks is in that matchup. He's headed to Iowa with Gulf
Mm.
Coast, so it would be a very high talent matchup should we get it. Okay, I teased us a little bit. I wanted to kind of send our listeners in the right direction. So last segment, talking coaches. And now I know that we've already got some that have confirmed their way into college basketball. Of course, the headliner is Coach Assad Drayton, who's going to the currently winless Syracuse Orange. But is there a coach that you think, and it can be Drayton, I'm not telling you that it can't be, but is there a coach, in your opinion, that is best positioned to make the most seamless and successful leap? Emphasis on
Oh,
successful leap to
yeah,
college basketball.
yeah. Ooh, ooh. Okay. I have to say that if I had to lean on one and one A, it would really, and I know I'm going to get in somebody's drawers about this, but it would really be Coach Dre Pope or Drees Williams
Okay.
in
And
term
explain
in
yourself.
terms. Yeah, so in terms of their ability to, and I'm going to step away from the leadership thing for a minute. Their ability to structure a team, organize a team, and structure and it might be in flux in the case of what we saw what Coach Drees Williams had to deal with. They started off there, with one type of game and one sort of set principles when you saw them earlier on in the year. And as the year moved on, he started coaching to the talent that he had on this team. Not saying that he wasn't doing it before, but it became more obvious, and they started becoming more successful. And then to go on to say the same thing with Coach Dre Pope, who's managed to sort of always been that mentor slash coach slash clipboard director that you need at this particular level. I think that plays on the next level. So those would be my 1 and 1 A's.
Those are those are good. I mean, you said so. Drees Williams currently sits with the fourth best winning percentage in college in SimWorld Prep history, 63%. Actually, he's got the fourth most wins. Beg your pardon. He's got the sixth most or the sixth highest winning percentage at 63%. And then you mentioned as you're saying, I'm just looking at our coaching rankings here. Dre
Hmm.
Pope,
Hmm.
43 wins. That's the sixth most, and his 55% winning percentage just a little bit further down. I like both of those. I think that they both have proven a really great ability to recruit talent, to
Hmm.
establish talent. I think Dre Pope has done an exceptional job of kind of weathering the storm that existed last season and everything that engulfed that program.
Yeah.
I don't. I think it is no small feat that they have turned around the season the way in which they have to be sitting here again back into the last dance and sitting with the number 13 seed. To me, I would take an I'm stubborn to a fault. I will continue to own Kai Killen stock, and I will
Hmm.
continue to own Tomas Kusa stock.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and the reason I think Tomas Kusa, with the emphasis again on the most successful leap, as I think if he were to make the leap, and I'm not saying that I think we should first off oh, should have said this from the beginning. This isn't a negative on any of the other coaches, right? Just because we don't
Oh
say a
no,
coach
no.
doesn't mean anything bad. But one thing that I think about when I think about Tomas Kusa is I think he's going to pick the right spot to go to. Now, I'm not saying that Coach Drayton did not do that when he becomes the head coach of Syracuse next season, but that is a very high hill for him to climb, right? It's going to be a team that ends up with it could be 0 wins, it could be I don't know, well less than five, right? I mean, we're looking at a
Hmm.
team that's
Hmm.
going to be needing a complete overhaul. That is hard to do for a head coach. I feel as if Tomas Kusa, he's said this before. Like, he's not going to college basketball if he doesn't find the fit to be perfect. He has
Right.
enjoyed his time coaching overseas. I mean, he left a very good market in St. Louis where he had time to coach Tyson Simpson and Glory Tate to go to SimWorld Atlantis and make them a really great program last season.
Yes. Yes.
He is, and he has them back there as I guess got to confirm my seeding here, number five. The number five ranked team in all of SimWorld Prep with 10 wins, one of only four teams to have double figure wins. When he goes to college basketball, I think he's going to go into a spot that is a ready made contender. I don't think that's a
Mm.
bad thing, but I
Oh
do
no.
feel as if he's going to be selective in where he goes, and that would make him the most successful.
It's so interesting you would say selective. I think for some of our listeners, Marsh, I think for some people, they look upon maybe because they feel this way that coaches are opportunistic, next best, but your idea of next best does not always necessarily mean team. You
Hmm.
could it could be a really good team, but if I know that there is a bad structure around the team, right? There's a bad organization, I might not want to be there because I know I'm going to have to toe more than I need to in order just to get anything done. And you have to and I think be good for a lot of our listeners to realize, hey, when most coaches are making that decision about putting down the clipboard in one place where they've sort of built something to take it up to see if those seeds of grow in another place. There's a lot of thought process going in there. Facilities, organization, team, support.
Hmm.
My ability to recruit. I can go to a team, but if I can't get top players to go there, what good is it, right? Because
Hmm.
eventually everybody's going to catch up and pass me. So that's a really, really good point.
And I think it's easy to say, well, you choose a team that's good, and well, a good team isn't going to be having coach turnover. I would disagree with that. Let's just take Miami for example. We talked about
Hmm.
them,
Hmm.
as a team that's
Hmm.
really struggled this season. But guess what's probably coming back next year? You're probably going to have Dominic Bianco still on your team.
Yep.
You're
Hmm.
still bringing in Tony Henderson. You are definitely going to have Richard Hennessy still on that roster. You're going to have Edgar Fernandez, and this is a basketball team that's quietly 3-2 in ACC play. They're actually playing good in conference basketball, and you still have a very good market to recruit into. They're going to need a head coach because all signs point to the changing over of Jim Larinaga at the end of the season. That's a spot that a guy like Tomas Kusa would say that's a
Right.
place I want to go. I go
Mm-hmm.
there, the system is already built. I do not have to be concerned with this thing all falling apart on me because
Through that.
one, the team isn't good enough right now, or two, I'm walking into a program that's losing the best player, and now I have to start things over. So
But you
that's
know,
it.
but John Marsh, quick question: do you think they would leave him alone to do that?
I think they have to. I think if you're a team like, and I think Miami's kind of thrust themselves into this that they shouldn't have been, they wouldn't have been otherwise. But they certainly
Mm-hmm.
they want to take the route that we saw Arkansas and Houston until
Good point.
and Alabama take, which is, hey, we suddenly became a national power. Let's not let this opportunity slip away, right? Houston is probably going to have a coaching change, or is going to have a coaching change, despite bringing
Mm-hmm.
in two really good classes. Arkansas is a top 15 squad. Alabama is arguably the number one team in the country, depending on who you ask. When you give a coach a runway, you can make any program established, right? You don't have to only be Duke, North Carolina, Kansas to be relevant. So I think a team like Miami, who said, "Hey, we tasted national championships. We want to bring
Mm-hmm.
in a coach that can give us stability, and we want to bring in a coach that can check a lot of boxes." Tomas Kusa fits that. I'm not saying none of the other coaches do, but I think Tomas Kusa is a logical fit there because I don't think he's just going to say, well, Princeton might get a new head coach next season because their head coach might move on to one of these college basketball teams that have had a really good season. Let me just go there, right?
Right.
Um,
Right. Right. Right.
or Washington, they're probably going to have a new head coach. Boise State, despite their recent successes, is probably going to have a new head coach next season. When that happens, are you going to sit here and want to go to a team that's not really established and built to win, or could you go to a program that already has some really good pieces? And I think Miami does. Not to say those other ones don't. I know that's what everyone's going to gravitate to, but I just think that's where Kusa is selective in that decision making. All right, that's our show. Again, all of this tips off on Friday on SimWorld TV. A massive, massive slate of basketball. All of it starts at 6 p.m. on Friday with SimWorld Europe and Queen City Kings. It continues on Saturday at 10 a.m. with Gotham 5 and Showtime, and then Philadelphia Elite with a winner of whoever is going to be playing, or the winner between Queen City Kings and SimWorld Europe will begin the afternoon on Sunday, also at 10 a.m., and the weekend continues into Monday. So a huge 4 days ahead of college or of SimWorld prep basketball. All of that starts Friday. Maestro, we will have you on next week. We're going to be recapping everything that happened this coming weekend, and we're going to preview the week ahead as the second round begins on Friday the 14th. But it is, as always, fantastic to hear from you since I don't get to look at you this time. But we'll be back on camera next week. Thank you for taking the time to chat. Looking forward to recapping all this with you next week.
Appreciate you, brother.